Hello, hello, hello. My name is Tanisha Johnson. I am the founder of Tjselfcare page, and I want to thank you for joining me tonight. So I think Instagram is trying to get me some followers. I know I'm doing a video really, really late, and I have a lot of followers that are on the East Bay. If you're a night owl like me, then you're likely still up. But if not, then you're probably asleep. But that's okay because it's up for 24 hours. But I just wanted to kind of wrap up the month of November. I wanted to kind of start off November differently than I did for previous months. When I originally started my page, I was just coming from a place from my heart where I wanted to talk about real topics like self-esteem, self-care, and just kind of inspire people on the journey that I was going through myself. Oh, hey, Jay Speaks Motivation. How you doing? Hey, thank you. Um, but yeah, so when I first started my page, it just came from a place of me kind of wanting to help you all like learn more about self-care, what it really means, in particular emotional self-care. And as I transcended on the page, like I just kind of just random thoughts I had or things that I had discussed with other people, I kind of turned that into just whatever I talked about for the day. And I just want to thank like all of my followers for following me this far. And I wanted to let you know for the upcoming year 2019 that I hope you guys are ready for it because it's going to be great for all of us. I am going to switch up a little bit of what I do. I'm going to do more of having topics specifically and then posting about those topics every month. So if you notice, this month we talked about triggers. And I'm not sure if you guys noticed or not, but our theme for November was purple. So if you notice, every post that you saw in that from me was purple. And I have on my purple attire. This is actually one of my favorite shirts. So I'm just showing you guys a little bit of my personality tonight because I'm feeling good. I'm in my house. I'm relaxed. And yes, I love my little shirts that have the little cutoff. I think it's kind of like sexy / sophisticated. So, but anyway, enough about that. But yes, I have on my purple because our theme this month was purple. I also have my purple candle lit. And I have my lavender candle lit. And I am just enjoying this ambiance of us talking about triggers, identifying triggers, and then being able to discover more of what is a trigger for us. So for me in particular, I had shared that one of the triggers that I have was I have a lot of emotional triggers. And I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but that was like the main theme within this month. We talked about emotional triggers. And I wanted to give like concrete examples because I had a couple people, message me and a couple people commenting, about specifically how do triggers kind of manifest into our life. So as I always say, this is a safe space. This is a safe page. If you have any questions in particular you would like to ask me, that you do not mind sharing in an open forum, please comment. But if not, I encourage everyone to please send me a DM message and I will respond to you within 24 hours. So now, on to the good stuff. We are talking about triggers. So this month in particular was very challenging for me. And one of the reasons why I chose triggers is because I found my own self being triggered. So I'll share a quick story. So I'm going through some transitions and changes at my current job, and change for me is always a trigger. So when I was growing up, a lot of times I didn't know, what was going to happen one minute to the next, and I had to learn how to adapt quickly because I wasn't in a space where I could ask questions or ask for directions. And so I based everything on my observations. I picked up on other people's cues. And that's how I learned kind of how to survive. And planning for the next moment became one of my survival skills. Now, a lot of times, I'm not sure if you guys remember me sharing, but I do struggle with anxiety as well as depression. So, what normally happens in that setting is a change will come about, and before the change even happens, or before the change has even manifested for me to be able to take action towards it, I find myself planning for the change. Now, some would say, well, Tanisha, that's a great thing to do, because it always keeps you, going, right? It always keeps you, it avoids you from being able to stress later. But that actually has not been my experience. So my experience is, because I overly plan for change, what ends up happening is I get myself worked up physically that causes the anxiety. I have anxiety attacks. I've experienced like headaches, nausea, heart palpitations. I've been hospitalized for my heart palpitations in the past. And even though medication may be helpful and medication may be a route that is taken by some, I chose not for that to be my route, because I wanted to practice really getting a grip on my own anxiety and kind of learning more about it. So during this month, I saw myself having panic attacks, having heart palpitations, not wanting to participate in things that I normally would have, because I was just a little frustrated than I normally am. And that was a sign for me that I'm being triggered, something is happening, and the action that I've taken on it is doing more harm than good. And the action in this moment was the planning. So from that, what ended up happening to me was, because of the anxiety was so strong, I couldn't sleep, the heart palpitations, I had headaches, etc., etc. I ended up going into a mode of depression. So anytime I have an episode of depression, I share with my family, I share with my friends, because I really want to normalize it a little bit. And when I say normalize it, I definitely do not, I'm not trying to minimize what depression is and how severe it is. But a lot of times I've experienced people in my life, they feel like they have to pull you out. They feel like, oh, well, let me call you, let's go out. Let's do this, let's do that. Let me come over and support you. And even though that's helpful and is great and is valued to me in many ways, what I've learned is it's okay for me to go through an episode as long as that's not preventing me from doing my day-to-day activities. So let me be clear. As long as I'm able to go to work, keep my house clean, keep my body clean, eat, sleep, etc., etc., being a little blue is not a bad thing for me. And I'm giving you guys my definition, and I want you to use the information how it's helpful to you. But that's fine for me. When it gets to a point where I don't want to go out, I see myself not being able to keep my house clean, I'm eating things that are not good for my health, I'm emotionally eating, things like that, then that's when I know, like, okay, maybe I need to talk to my therapist, maybe I need to practice some of my self-care methods so I can get back to the mental state that is functional and healthy for me. But going through a little episode where you're feeling blue and you're feeling down is fine. To be honest with you, it's best if you stay in that moment with yourself, because by doing things like, for me, my drug of choice is eating. I love, love, love food. So the doctor told me a long time ago, like, Tanisha, your late nights with Ben and Jerry are starting to tell on you. And it's true. I love food. That's my thing. So when I find myself constantly like eating or not partaking in events or things like that, that's when I know that, okay, maybe this is more than just the blues. Maybe I'm truly just not feeling good in my spirit and my soul, and I need to do something to feel better. But hi, how are you? Thank you, Shavila. Thank you, Jay Speaks Motivation, for joining me tonight. So yes, those are some of the things, that lets me know, okay, this is more than what it is. But when I'm just depressed, I like to be in that moment and kind of feel it sometimes, because depression comes for me when there's changes that need to be made and I'm either not making them or I'm not making the decisions that I would like to make while in it. So, per example, if someone asks me, Tanisha, can you let me borrow $100 or whatever? And I give it to them. If that's something that I didn't want to do, I'm going to be depressed later because I know that's something I didn't want to do. And now I'm sacrificing my money or my finances or what have you because of the decision that I made to give that person money. So that's a very basic decision, but, basic example that I'm giving. But the point that I'm trying to make is we are in control of our own emotions and feelings on a regular basis. And that was something that I didn't know growing up, and I didn't know when I was a teenager. I thought that however things were is how they were, and I couldn't do anything to change it. If this is the person that I'm associating myself with and I'm calling myself friend, then when they need something, I need to be there for them. If this family member is sick or down and out and they need something, I need to be there for them. And if I'm not there for them, then I'm not being a good friend or a good daughter or a good cousin or a good whatever, whoever you're talking to. And what I found was because I was constantly overexerting myself all the time, that's when the depression came in. And I felt like I didn't have control. And I was still overly giving, overly doing all these things, not realizing that there's like this whole definition out there called codependency that I was. And over time, the anxiety caused depression. And the depression eventually just made me feel numb, like I didn't want to do anything. So that was my story. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to create this page. And I want to create it from a place of my own healing. So every month, whatever we're talking about is what I'm going through in particular. So this month we were talking about triggers because I felt myself being triggered a lot. And let me give you just a little bit of background on triggers. So triggers is something that still manifests from 0 to 5. Hi, how are you? Thank you for joining. Triggers are something that manifests still when we're children. So a good example would be myself. I just explained to you that I was going through some issues at work and some changes are happening and I was feeling triggered. I was feeling like something's going to happen and I don't know how to control it. That place came from childhood. When things were happening in childhood, I didn't have a voice. I couldn't speak. I couldn't express how I felt. I couldn't ask questions. So I found myself constantly observing and picking up on cues in order to plan out my next move. So now, even at the age of 34, I'm still doing something that I did when I was 4 and 5 years old, right? It's like now, here I am at 34, and before I know what's going to happen, before I know what challenges or not challenges that come from a situation, I'm still already planning for it as if it's going to happen. And so that's what I mean when I talk about triggers. So when we have triggers, something from our base, which is generally our childhood, or it could be like your early adolescent age, something happens, and then you get triggered. You have an emotion from it, and then you feel like you have to take an action. So a lot of times when we get triggered, we don't understand where it comes from, because where it comes from is a very, very long ago place, right? Our childhood that we push down. So in order for us to really understand, like, God, why is this bothering me? Why every time someone says so-and-so, I feel like this? You have to dig deep within yourself. And my post, I was hoping, that I could kind of help you guys like manifest those feelings within yourself so that you would be able to start to define what is the core reason of why you feel triggered. Because until we work with that, there's no way that you will ever be able to really identify your triggers. So I'm just sharing that I have been a social worker for 16 years, and I have been a recovering codependent for 5 years. I've been in therapy for 6 years. And when I tell you that there's work that you need to do, I'm not kidding. Like, when I discovered the whole reason why I even went to therapy was actually because of a relationship that ended bad. I got no closure. I got no call. I got nothing. It was just all of a sudden, the person, he didn't want to communicate with me anymore. So I could have took the easy way out. And I could have said, he was crazy. He wasn't worth my time. He was this, he was that. Just scroll down a big old list of things that he was and move on to the next. But because I was so tired and because I was triggered by what he did, that abandonment triggered me to start to heal my own self. And what I found was that I was picking people based on the low self-esteem I have for myself. I didn't know the queen that was inside of me. I didn't know the Tanisha that was loving and considerate and kind could actually attract someone that was the same. I didn't believe those things. And it was only God and prayer and healing that brought me to a place where I was able to say, you know what, that's not okay anymore. And I took it a step further. It wasn't just about being in a relationship with a guy anymore. It was about that behavior is not okay anymore for anyone. Hi, thank you everyone for joining. That behavior was not okay at all for anyone. It's not okay for anyone to feel like they can step on me, they can treat me any kind of way, they can communicate with me any kind of way, and I'm still going to be there. But because that was my foundation of giving to people and overdoing, then that's what started to manifest in my life. And until I took a step back from relationships to really understand myself, that's when I said, okay, Tanisha, this is not only a pattern with men, this is a pattern that you do all the time because you don't know your worth. And for me, I'm a Christian. I love God. He's my savior and my everything. So it was even bigger for me. It was like, I'm a daughter of a king. So why am I treating myself this way? Why am I engaged with these people? Why am I doing these things knowing that it's not going to be any good for me in the long run? Those are all questions I had to ask myself. But if it had not been for that trigger of abandonment that happened, then I never would have asked myself any of these questions. So the message that I want to give to you guys tonight is always trust your instinct and your gut. If you are a follower of God or if you believe in God, ask Him to show you the directions that you need to be taking in your life. That is critical because a lot of times we make decisions in our life and then we feel like we have to continue on with that negative outcome because we've already gotten it started. And I want to be a witness for you guys that when I saw the road I was going down, I stopped. And I thank God every day that I didn't continue on in that relationship, that relationship did end. That I did decide that I'm going to take a break from me and do what I needed to do for myself. Because if I wouldn't have done that, then I still would have been making the same mistakes over and over. So a part of this self-healing work, knowing your triggers is a big one. Because our reality is everything. We constantly have to ask ourselves what's happening versus what's reality. So take this example from my job. What's happening is I'm feeling triggered because I know changes are coming and I don't know what I'm going to do. But the reality is no change has came yet. I got one email that said nothing. But in my mind, I'm bridging that to be a negative experience that I need to plan for. So what I practice doing is reprogramming. And that's what we're going to be talking about next month. How do we reprogram our thoughts and our brains and our whole entire thought process so that we are no longer experiencing negative outcomes? So for me, change creates anxiety and depression. For you, it could be another trigger. It could be when somebody calls you out of your name, or it could be, just anything, because there's triggers all over us. But what we want to work on is we want to work on what's underneath. We don't want to keep looking at what's happening. What we need to start asking ourselves is, why is what's happening causing me to have an emotion? That's the question we need to ask, because when we do that, then that's when we really start to be able to identify how can we make changes for ourselves so that triggers are no longer triggers. Oh, that's what I'm doing. That's great. That's great. So next month we're going to be talking about reprogramming. The theme for next month is blue. So I hope that everybody, sometime next month, that you wear some blue and you think about how reprogramming can benefit you in your life. And we're going to talk more about that, because I know when I say reprogramming, everybody's like, "What, Tanisha, how do you do that? What is that?" It's negative self-talk that you give yourself, telling yourself, you're not valued, you're not beautiful, you can't do this isn't going to work out. Starting to reprogram ourselves and have positive thoughts, and not only just positive thoughts, but I'm going to be really honest with you guys. Sometimes I really do talk to myself. People that know me, they know that I talk to myself constantly, even in conversation. I got upset last weekend because a friend of mine, she had a party and I didn't get an invite. And then, I had to tell myself, even in conversation with her, I said, yeah, first I was really upset because I'm like, how come she didn't invite me to the party? And then I said, well, you know what? Wait a minute. I wasn't available to go. So why am I being upset that I wasn't invited anyway? And in addition to that, this wasn't even her party. This was someone else's party that she just so happened to be at. But I felt some type of way that I wasn't there. So you see, taking that time out to do that talk with yourself, not only does it calm you down, but it also prevents you from having, a domino effect where you're having thought after thought after thought, and now you're angry, and now you want to act on that anger. And sometimes we do have to act on our anger, but in times where we're just triggered from an emotional standpoint, it's not good for us to respond, right? Because once again, not being involved in that party, it wasn't about the party. It was about me. I felt abandoned because in my life before, people have abandoned me and they've told me things that didn't come to pass, and they made promises that they didn't keep. So now anytime anybody does anything that even looks similar to that, all that rage is coming out, and it's coming out in appropriate times. I can tell you guys a story. Just tonight, I was at the mall and I was shopping, and a girl, she was so busy trying to get products that she wanted in the store that I was in, that she almost knocked candles out my hand. And when it happened, she automatically apologized, and I just looked at her, and I had some words that I wanted to share, but the words were coming from a negative place, right? I'm irritated because I'm in a shop and I'm paying more money than I should have paid for, and now she bumping into me and things like that. I put myself in that situation. She doesn't have anything to do really with why I'm irritated. You see what I'm saying? Just to give an example of how we can start to reprogram our thoughts so that we no longer are responding to things that we really don't need to respond for. Life is hard. The energy that we have, we need to reserve it for things that are more important. I found that I spent so much time being angry at people, having all this built up hostility towards people. But when in reality, I was the one that put myself in a situation to get hurt. And I know that's hard to hear because we want reparation. We want to see the people that hurt us or that treat us badly suffer. I know I will be honest and say that I do. But what is really the outcome of that? Is the pain going to end? No. Is the suffering going to end? No. Am I going to cry less or am I going to be angry less? No. So how can we get to a place where we are not responding with our emotions, but we're responding with our thoughts? That's what we're going to talk about, because that's what reprogramming is. Reprogramming is being able to do a self-examination on yourself and say, you know what? I need to take myself out of this situation, because that's the only way it's going to end. I need to look at this situation differently. I need to respond differently. Doing things the same way over and over again is not going to benefit us. But when we make changes, that's when we see changes. If someone's acting crazy and I'm acting crazy too, then we just two crazy people acting together. You know what I mean? But if someone is acting crazy and I'm calm and I say, you know what, I'm stepping out of this situation, now they just by themselves. So it's like we are in control. We're in control of outcomes in our life. We are in control of how we feel. Now, can we always change things? Absolutely not. But we do need to make sure that we are aware that we can change how we respond to things. That's a legit thing that we can do. We can't stop our supervisors from sending us emails about our work. We can't stop the rent from going up, if we live in a high price area. We can't stop traffic. We can't, but what can we do? But we can change how we respond to the things and the control that they have over our life. Because it's that control that normally brings us into situations where we're angry or we're sad or we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling hopeless, like the situation will never end. And that part is what we can change, because we can plan and we can reprogram ourselves so that we are constantly thinking of what's to come versus what is. I'm not going to stay in this negative moment. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to ask for support. I'm going to do what I need to do in order to take care of myself. And that is the true definition of my self-care page. I'm not talking about taking a bath, buying yourself a dress, or getting a pedicure. That's not the self-care I'm talking about. The type of self-care I'm talking about is the part that's going to keep us alive, that's going to keep us from not stressing out, not overdoing, getting angry and upset, and just sitting in that misery for the rest of our lives. That is the self-care that I'm talking about. Being able to have a peace of mind when no one else around you does. I don't know about you guys, but that is what I desire, and that's what I want for my life. I want to be able to be okay no matter what is happening around me, because I know two things. I know I'm a child of God and He has me. And I know that Tanisha, myself, I know that I love myself so much that I'm not going to allow anyone or anybody to put me in a situation where I'm feeling used, abused, and not appreciated. It's not happening. So that is how I'm walking into 2019, you guys. And I hope that you're walking there with me. We are going to learn how to reprogram our brains. We are going to learn how to say no. We are going to learn how to stop saying yes. And 2019 is going to be a year that we have always been waiting for our life. I know I have. I can't begin to tell you guys how long I've been doing for other people and dealing with other people's situations instead of taking care of myself. It's been years. And when I finally found that I don't have to live that way anymore, I was so excited that I started this page. I am not a person to get up and talk in front of people. I work with clients on a one-on-one basis. But, the Spirit of God just told me that I cannot hold this in myself, because how many other people are living for other people? And this is how we were raised, not because our parents don't love us, not because they didn't do the best they can. They didn't know either. They didn't know by not giving us a voice that it was going to cause problems for us in our teenage years, in our young adult years, and in our adult years. They didn't know that. They were doing the best they could with what they were given. But what they were given was half of a toolbox. And they raised us on that half a toolbox. So now it's up to us to be able to fill that toolbox up with what we needed. And what I need to learn is confidence. What I needed to learn was my self-worth. What I needed to learn was self-esteem. I needed to learn that it is okay for me to say no. And if someone doesn't like it, then they don't need to be in my life. Those are things that I needed to be able to identify for myself. This is right on time for me. Good. I'm happy that you joined me tonight too. Thank you everyone for joining. But those are things that I needed to learn that my parents didn't give me. And for a long time, when I was going through my healing process, I didn't want to believe the stuff that my therapist was telling me. It was like, how come I'm coming to you because this guy broke my heart, left me shattered? I gave him my money. I gave him my time. I let him stay in my place. Gave him everything. Why do you keep talking about something that happened with my mom and dad? I didn't put the pieces together. I didn't know that because I didn't know my worth, I didn't know my value, I didn't have the confidence that I thought I had, that I was putting myself in situations to be hurt. I was giving my all in hopes that that would be returned, instead of watching a reciprocation process manifest. And when I say that, like being able to hold someone accountable. Why am I always paying for dinner? Do you have a job? Why are you not paying for dinner? But the question that wasn't the question. The question was, why am I sitting here wasting time with a man that don't even pay for dinner, that make up excuses? I am worth whatever it is, whether it's $20, $40, $100, I'm worth it. And if you want me, this is what you need to be able to pay. I didn't know how to say that before. Old Tanisha would have said, oh, that's mean. Well, maybe he doing the best he can. Well, he really loves me. He's just going through a hard time. That's what old Tanisha would have said. I don't say those things anymore. And I took it a step further, past intimate relationships. Friendships as well. If I'm the one that's always calling you, always texting you, always there for you, and when I'm going through something and you know about it and I don't hear from you, then you're not a good friend. Why am I wasting my time? Because while I'm wasting time hoping that you learn how to love me, there are people out there that actually do know how to love me. And I'm not spending time with them because I'm wasting time with you. And so I just want to share that message with you guys today, that it is okay for us to go through this process, no matter how old we are, because that opportunity of being happy and being free and being able to just make decisions for ourselves that we love is something that everyone should experience. I'm experiencing it and it is great. It's amazing. I still have times where I feel bad, when I say no. Sometimes in my mind, I'll be like, well, Tanisha, was that a little harsh? And then like I told you guys, I had a little conversation with myself and I say, no, you don't have it. Or the person didn't ask you ahead of time. They're bringing you into their own rushing and stuff. No. I said no, and no was appropriate. And then I shut that thought, boom, I shut it out of my head. And I had to learn how to do that because I refused to be caught up in other people's drama and foolishness like I used to back in the day. No, you on your way to jail, so you calling me to pick you up. Why am I coming out my bed to pick you up? And I know some of these situations sound funny, and I know that we all have a story, but really, these are the situations I found myself in. Why am I on the phone with you 2 hours talking about the same thing that I told you yesterday? No, why am I doing this? I deserve to be having fun in my friendships, in my relationships, with my family. I deserve to have someone I can call. How come every time I call you, we start off talking about me, but we end talking about you? And we talked about you in the middle as well. No, I don't deserve to be in friendships like that. I may be a good listener, but I also need someone to listen to me too. So this is how I'm walking into 2019, you guys. And I decided to start it early. I said, let's talk about triggers so that people can really start to think about, what are some of the triggers that I have? How do I respond? How do I want to respond differently? This month, we're going to talk about self-acceptance, and we're going to talk about reprogramming. How do we reprogram those negative thoughts into positive thoughts? And how do we be our own cheerleader in times where we may be feeling like we want to go back into old habits? So for me, old habits is overdoing for people, not saying no when I need to, and overeating. Those are habits, negative habits that I had. When I feel myself treading back, that's when I pray and I say, God, I need you to walk me into my new spirit. I see myself giving when I shouldn't be giving, when I really don't have. I need you to help me walk in my new spirit. When I see myself eating foods that are bad for my body that I shouldn't be eating, I ask God, I need you to walk me into my new spirit, because that is the spirit that's going to keep me and deliver me from the foolishness that I used to call my life 4 years ago. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you, everyone. So I know I'm doing a video really late, and I didn't even know if people would be up watching it, but I thank you for taking the time to watch it. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for following my page. And I am so excited about sharing my healing with you guys. And I hope you are too. Have a good night and be blessed, and know that God loves you, and it is okay for us to say no. Bye.